What's up? It's another episode of What You Strappin. These are not watch reviews. They're just quick wristwatch check of the day with a strap choice pairing just to show it off. Usually it will be aftermarket, but unless the watch is new, it'll show it on its factory option first. And that is actually the case here. I picked up another Glycine Airman. This one is, what do you call it? It's the Glycine Airman Vintage, the Chief. You know, you have to throw in the Chief because it's a particular style of Airman. There's subtle differences. I'm not going to get into that right now. I've done a review on this. And yeah. And this is the GL0475, if I remember the correct reference. Technically, this is my second one. I did buy one earlier, several months ago. Really quickly, I bought one, and then it was on the black strap. I forget the reference. I think it's 0473 or 1. Forget. But I did not want that. I actually wanted this version on this strap. This is the one that got my attention, and you could get it on a it's a different reference number, although it's the same watch. It's just the strap option changes the reference number, and I don't remember the other one, but it's you can also get it on a mesh. But personally, I don't find these look right on a mesh. I think mesh usually works best on a diver style watch, in my opinion, but that's me. But I like it on this NATO style strap. As you can see here, it is a double pass, but the watches, you know, Airmans generally are so thin anyways that doesn't matter. I think it still sits pretty nicely on my 7-inch wrist here, just trying to show it off, different angles. And yeah, I just really like this olive or khaki green color with the beige or tan center stripe, and it really works, you know, almost a near match to the kind of tan loom that's on the white dial, and I'm glad they actually used that. I think if they tried to just use a stark white loom color against a stark white dial such as this, it might be too monochromatic, you know, and it wouldn't stand out as much. And I think this adds just a little bit of warmth to an otherwise cold and very Spartan looking dial. Yeah, but I really like this, and of course this is the Purist version. I think that's also what differentiates the model, if I'm not mistaken, is that this has the Purist movement, which is what my preference is, and if I'm getting an Airman, which means real quickly that it's a movement that moves in a full rotation around the dial in one revolution, because it's a 24-hour dial, and instead of a excuse me, instead of a typical 12-hour dial, which moves around twice a day, right? And I like that. It's the way they were originally designed, and I think it makes for a different change in how I would visually reference the time of day, you know. Like for instance, if I'm looking at this time right now, I think it would be, normally it's like 5:50, right? Or somewhere around there. That's what it's kind of looking like, just sometime before 6 o'clock. But it's not. This is, you can see, it's actually pointing almost to the 11. So it's going to be, it's about 10, almost 10:50 right now. And so it's going to 11. So yeah, 12 o'clock high is actually 12 o'clock down on, you know, like noon time. It's actually down on the bottom of the dial instead of normally up to the top, right, on a 12-hour dial. Some people get so thrown off by this, which is weird, especially with the craze of GMT watches. I mean, most people like to have that fourth GMT hand, and if you have that, that rotates around once an hour, or no, once a day, and yeah, you basically read it the same way you would read that hand, right? So why is it so hard to read this when you remove the 12-hour hand, right? It's not that hard. And besides, the tail end is long for a reason, and you know, it's once you get past 12, you go between 13 and I guess 24, whatever that tail end points to is the corresponding, you know, standard 12-hour time. So if it's pointing at 16, the main hand's pointing at 16, the tail end will be pointing at the 4, so it means it's 4 p.m. If it's at the 21, it will be counterpointing towards the 9, which will indicate 9 p.m. and so forth. So not that hard. And again, I think visually it's just something different than your 12-hour, dials that are like 99% of most people's collection. And I dig that. And I don't know. I just overall really like the Airman series of design. It's original. It beat the Rolex GMT Master to being the first commercially available, GMT watch out there with the rotating bezel. It's a lot of firsts, but Rolex gets all the glory for their GMT watch. But I like the fact that this also is not something that's not easily, but it is rarely, if ever, copied. You got plenty of GMT style, homages and things that are basically a spin-off of that bicolored, GMT bezel, 24-hour bezel, fourth pointer hand, and so forth. And they usually try to look like the Rolex, which is fine. I've done that many times. I do like the look of that, but I appreciate the fact that this maintains its own thing. I mean, it hasn't changed for over 50 years, back when these were introduced in 1953. So yeah, actually, this video is not generally supposed to be a review, but it sort of will be a mini review. My full review of this, basically the Chief, this model, I had it in an anthracite gray dial with the blue hands several years ago, and I had a more modern version, an updated version of it rather, in more recent years. I didn't do a video on that. It's basically the same watch. The only thing they updated since that very first one I had was they added sapphire crystal and up the water resistance from 10 to 30 meters. Not a whole lot, but it's better than what it was, and I think I have definitely more confidence in getting it wet than I did before. Although I did wash and get the other one wet too. It just do it really mild and gently. And yeah, this is a really cool watch. This strap is nice. It's comfortable. Seems well made. I like the fact that it has reinforced holes here. This has a kind of a military vibe to it. Vintage military vibe. I like the fact that these were, again, one of those watches that were popular for military servicemen during the Vietnam War era. They brought them to the local, PX postal exchange at the, I guess on their base, and along with the likes of, Zodiac, Seiko, and Rolex, to name some other ones that are very popular during that time that people personally bought for themselves. I think the Airman's a really cool one for, I think they were primarily for pilots. I've seen a famous picture of I believe it's a Air Force colonel or something I think he's an F4, Phantom pilot, and he's got one on his wrist giving a thumbs up. I'm sure you can find that online, and I had a picture of it in my review a while back. And I just had to have one of these back, and can't imagine my collection being without one. And yeah, I would like to have an Airman 18. I do think the size for my wrist would be just that much better, but they haven't done one of those in a long time. And they've been reviving. Well, they've revived the Airman and even the Chief and kept that going. I think they would do well, especially with some popular trends towards smaller watches. That 39 millimeters in the Airman 18, it's great. And it has 20 millimeter lugs, which is, I think, a bit better than the 22 on this, but it's doable for me. But it does have 200 meters of water resistance, sapphire crystal on the front and the back, still maintains thinness and all of that, and the display case back too. Nothing fancy, but still it's nice, and still kept it thin and all that with 200 meters water resistance. It's a really good watch, and I used to own one. I regret selling it. I always thought I could probably be able to buy it again if I wanted to, but hard to find a good example. But anyways, until then, I like this one, and I think it works. And I think the date window being, it does have a red numbers, but that's all right. Overall, it matches, or at least it's white, and it kind of, it it does its best to blend into the background as much as possible. And in this size, 40 millimeters, the date window does not cut into the 6 that's right next to it, as with some of the other smaller models, 39 in the Airman 18, and even the 36, of course, and the Airman number 1s, when they come in both 36 and 40 millimeters. But the 636 will definitely cut into the 6. Not a huge deal. It's still decent looking, but I like the fact that at least it doesn't cut into that 6. Does remove one of the index markings that would be right next to it, like one of the baton style ones, but that's okay. I think it doesn't disrupt the overall symmetry too badly. And there we go. Yeah, so this is my watchy Strappin turned mini review. I'm not going to go into the specs of all this because I've done it before. It's just kind of briefly explain why I wanted to get one again. It's just I really like it, and I think it's absent in my collection. This particular colorway in the pure white, and on this particular strap really does it for me. And yeah, I'm glad I picked it up, I guess, again. I didn't like it on the black leather strap, which I had first, and I returned that promptly. And then this, I couldn't find this for some reason. For a long time, it was just not available anywhere, and that's the option. But I finally had it, and it's on sale. I wouldn't pay full like retail, which is closer to like high 800s to 1,000 for it. I don't think so. You can get them. Sometimes I got this discounted at the Glycine store in the .eu. I think that's what it was. They have 2 Glycine stores, one in Switzerland, like .ch, I think, and then I think they have one that's .eu. The EU one is the one I got it from, and it was like $500 or something, which is more worth it. And you can do that actually at Ashford's as well. A lot of times Ashford's has some good discounts at their stores for watches. But where did I get it over at over there in Switzerland? I think it was a little bit less expensive, and I think maybe they actually had this particular color version. I can't remember. I think it's because it was a little bit cheaper with a discount. It was on sale or something. Oh, one thing, my wrist is 7 inches, and I would say that if you have a wrist size smaller than that, one thing, these do tend to wear a little bit larger, so you may find it might be just a little bit big because the lugs do sit a little broad, you know, wide across this way. It's just the way they space and the dimensions of it. And you might get a slight overhang because they are not short lugs, but they do angle quite well, as you can see. But still, smaller wrist, it might be a potential issue. But I would say if you're thinking of getting on this strap, you can see where it's at on this side. It can't fold back over to this hardware, so it's just going to have to stick up. So I think I'm at that limit and back up where it sticks up okay, and it's kind of held in place with the metal keeper out here. But it's not adjustable, so that's where it's going to be at. So if you get anything a smaller wrist, this tail end is going to stick out that much longer, and I don't think it's going to look good. It's going to just kind of be flapping around on that outside of the watch on this side, right? As you can imagine. And there's no way you can cut this. Well, you could cut it, but you can see all the reinforced holes go almost to the end of this piece. So you'd be cutting through the reinforced hole part, and this won't look good. And you will lose this signed little finished end, kind of leather, or I guess is it leatherette piece that kind of finishes up the end here. So yeah, there's something to keep in mind. There are plenty of other aftermarket NATO straps and strap options in 22 minutes that can work for this just fine. So it's not a big deal. If you like this style of the watch and your wrist can support it, go for it. But I'm just saying, just for those that are smaller wristed than 7 inches, you're going to want to be aware that this will probably wear too big or too long for anything much smaller than the 7-inch wrist, in my opinion. So that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I need to come up with a different phrase instead of ending it instead of enjoy your watches, because I do want you to enjoy your watches, but I think Peter Kotze uses that along with maybe a couple other lines. So I will use it one more time for now until I can think of another video ending line. So enjoy your watches. Thanks for watching. Okay, one more addition to add to the video, which I knew I'd forget something, it has to do with why I bought this. And I like white dial watches, but I was thinking, you know, the white dial Polar Explorer 2, I'd like something that gives me some of that vibe, but it's not an homage and actually quite different, yet it has some similar elements. So a nice polar white dial, contrasty black hands and indexes. These are not applied, but yet they do have good high contrast black printed numerals on that white dial. There's a little bit of red accent depending on which model you're talking about. If it's the newer, some of the newer Polar 2 Explorers, Explorer 2 Polar, then yeah, it's primarily an orange accent, but some of the earlier, older gen will have something with red. But that's one thing. And the stainless steel GMT 24-hour bezel, you know, that all that combination of color and general looks is kind of like the Explorer 2, and this is considerably less too. And you know, I think that's one of the reasons why I went with that, just to give some of that vibe and sort of visual look, feel a bit. But it's not a copy, not a heavily derivative homage. It's definitely its own thing, and yeah, that's kind of one of the many reasons that I went back and got something like this into my collection. Anyway, that's about it. Just wanted to throw that in there. Thanks for watching.